Before we get started, a quick reminder. Unlocked is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider for any health concerns. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and give a thumbs up, and share across all platforms. Unlocked. Mental performance, physical results. Welcome to Unlocked Mental Performance, Physical Results. Today, we're diving into the complex world of youth sports. Yeah, no dud, Coach Eric. Look, we're getting into one of my favorite topics. This is the ever-present debate of play for fun versus win at all costs. And I know this sounds like another coach-aimed episode. Pump the brakes there. Hold on. This episode is no doubt for everyone. In fact, I'd argue that maybe players and parents, this becomes more critical for them than even the coaches. Because while the coaches are going to have to coach in one of these styles, or will have their own mix of these styles, you as a player or as the parent of a player have to be able to identify this coaching mentality, this aim, this target for the team, and position yourself in the right place for your player at this time. Because just because you go out and you try out and you make the highest level team as the very last guy on the roster where all they want to do is win and you're never touching the field, just because you made that team and it's prestigious doesn't mean that coach is the right fit for you. Maybe he is. Maybe that environment is going to make you the best player you can be, give you the best experience you can have. But maybe it won't. Maybe it's not as simple as winning is good, fun is bad, or fun is good, winning is bad. But let's face it, winning is more fun than losing. It is. It's more fun. If you take any group of kids, any group of adults, and you give them the choice to win or lose, they're going to want to win. That's the enjoyment. That's fun, whether you're shooting hoops in the backyard or you're playing for a title. And it should be okay to want to win. But winning can't be the only acceptable outcome. Now, when it comes to play for fun versus win at all costs, there are significant advantages to both formats. There are. There isn't one answer for everybody. And both approaches do come from logical philosophies with admirable goals. It's not like one is evil. This isn't a good versus evil. The problem is that both of these approaches they're one-sided, and they leave the athlete without that complete experience. When you're trying to determine which one's going to work best, you have to understand those strengths and weaknesses. You have to understand the whole in that game plan and how that's going to affect the athlete, the team, the coach, the parents, the fans, depending on what level we're talking about here. You have to understand them. So again, it's not just the coach that is affected by this. It's going to affect the players. It's going to affect the parents. It's going to affect the fans. So let's break it down. What are we talking about here? Well, let's start with what I think is most commonly red flagged when you're talking about competitive sports. When you're talking about athletes, they're going to red flag a coach who's just in it for fun. Ugh, it's a play for fun coach. He doesn't take it serious. And in the hyper competitive world of youth sports, I get it. It's easy to get swept up for the quest of trophies, scholarship, elite performance, getting scouted. But at the heart, sports are a game. And games are meant to be fun. So what does the play for fun mentality mean? What does that really get into? It doesn't mean you're looking to lose, right? No. It means you're valuing equal playtime. It means you're valuing skill exploration and development over scoring. You're creating a supportive environment, not a dictatorship. That means coaches with this play for fun mentality aren't so much taskmasters as they are guides. They're assisting their team, their players, their athletes in enjoying the sport, not so much steering the ship. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's soft. Come on, Coach Eric. We want to have great mental performance so that we can get great physical results. We can't be soft like this. But if you look at it from the other side, proponents of this are going to tell you it's not soft, it's empathetic. It understands that not every player's goal is the next level. For many players, this is their goal. This is the achievement they're looking to get to. And sometimes when you reach that level, playing for fun is in and of itself a reward. It's the goal. So what's kind of the key to that then? If that's where you're at, what is the key to this mentality? Well, often it includes equal play time for all players. And I'm going to talk about that a little later because I have a lot to say about that. It's probably something I should do an entire episode on. We'll see how it goes here today. Maybe we have to hack and break this up into multiple episodes just because I can't stop ranting. Happened before, but back on topic here. So equal playing time for all players, at least as equal as you can get. You want it to be fun. You want engaging practices with activities and mini games. And sure, doing a tee scrimmage is going to work on skills, but really it's about getting that controlled scrimmage where everybody gets to hit the ball because they're not getting struck out and they're not getting walked. And everybody gets to field the ball because they're not standing around while there's lots of walks and there's lots of strikeouts. You know, it's like having a 3-on-3 basketball game where you've got so much more court to work with. So everybody has more chances to touch the ball and to shoot. It's not so defensively oriented. And you see that in all kinds of sports. In fact, hockey has this tradition of Ironman games where you don't leave the ice. Your unit is out there for the entire time. And I know if you've played other sports and you haven't played hockey, that doesn't sound that odd. But in hockey, there's a reason shifts are 45 seconds or a minute long. It is exhausting to be on the ice in skates, pushing hard for that amount of time. So now you're talking about being out there for 20 straight minutes with a 1-minute break and doing that 3 times with the same 5 guys, 6 guys with the goalie. It'll burn you out. Take it even further and go to 3-on-3 with a goalie instead of 5-on-5. And now, even if you drop that down to 10-minute periods, by the time you get to the end, everybody's gassed. And you say, well, that doesn't sound fun, Coach Eric. Well, but it is. It is because everybody knows that's what's happening. So you pace yourself. You stretch it out. And so there's not intense defense. The offense gets to move the puck around more. The goalie has more time to distribute the puck. You're not looking for faceoffs. In fact, what normally would happen when I used to do that is when the goalie stopped the puck, the defense had to stop forechecking and back off so he could just throw it off to the side and the offense for the other team could keep coming, because it's more of a schoolyard style of play. You only need one official, keeps things easier. There's no checking. There's minimal penalties because you're not going so hard that you feel like you have to slash and hook and attack each other. So the entire game format can be for hyper competitive players at the highest level. And yet that format is designed with the for fun mentality. And it's great because it encourages more laughter. There's a whole lot less scolding, a whole lot more knuckles, and a whole lot less head shaking. And while that specific example doesn't work for this, the mentality in general is looking more at learning opportunities than mistakes. It's not punitive when you screw up in a play for fun atmosphere. It's a learning opportunity. It's going to get explained to you, hopefully. There are some coaches who take it too far and they don't even tell you made a mistake. But the idea is that you don't refer to it as a mistake, but rather just a chance to get better. Okay? So, why? Why would you be looking at this and going, I just want to have fun. I just want to go out on the field and have fun, because it's a game. That's what the point of the game is. The point of the game isn't the trophy at the end. The trophy at the end is the reward, and it gives you this shot of emotional just joy when you get it. But that's really fun, right? And you can get that fun from scoring, from having successes on the field, and being screamed at can destroy that, even if you're successful. Now, I don't know about you, but I have been on teams that won, and it felt like a relief. It felt like a relief. It didn't feel like joy. It was like, oh my God, thank you. Maybe we won't get yelled at too much today. Maybe we'll only have to run a little bit after the game as punishment for our mistakes, because at least we won. I've been on that team. I've watched other players on that team. I've coached against that team. They're out there all over the place, and that robs the joy. So when you have a play for fun mentality, part of it is making every game enjoyable regardless of outcome. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, it's not just because you don't like yelling at people, and it's not just because yelling hurts people's feelings, and it's not just because it's just a game, or they're just kids, or my favorite, and I have a daughter, so I don't ever want to hear this at one of her games. Well, they're just girls. No, I don't care if you're 5 years old. I don't care if you're a boy. I don't care if you're a girl. I don't care if it's travel. I don't care if it's rec. It's never they're just. It's never it's just. You're minimizing, you're diminishing, you're devaluing what's going on. And that's crazy. That's crazy. Nothing has to be the World Series except the World Series. Nothing has to be the Super Bowl except the Super Bowl. Stop treating every game and every league and every moment as something you need to compare against the highest level. They're not just kids. They're kids. It's not just a game. It's a game. It's still competitive play. So what's the benefits of this? Why would I, as somebody who tends to be very competitive and wants to win and has maybe been accused of wanting to win too much, why would I be a proponent of the play for fun strategy? Well, there are benefits, and they go beyond the field. When you've had fun playing, you're far more likely to have a lifelong passion for the sport. If you grew up playing football and you hated your football coach, and football made you miserable, and when it was over, you were like, thank God I never have to do that again, you're a lot less likely to enjoy watching football. You're a lot less likely to want to go back to your school as an alumni and support the football team. You're a lot less likely to want to sign your kid up to play when they reach that age. And that's not unique to football. That's across the board. So if you want lifelong fans, treating the game as something that is fun to play and focusing on the fun, not the win, is going to grow lifelong fans. It also helps build strong team bonds and interpersonal skills, because everybody has to be on the field. Everybody has to be on the court. Everybody has to work with everybody. And so now it's less about those guys over there are starters, these guys over here are benchies, and those guys over there shouldn't even be here. It's a team. Across the board, it's a team. And by having it be that way, and by taking practice less seriously and not just grinding them into dust so that you can rebuild them in your image, by having mini games and fun practices and scrimmages and all these other things you can do, you're going to reduce the burnout. I'm not kidding. You're going to reduce the burnout. Burnout isn't just about the frequency of practice. Burnout isn't just about the volume of games. Burnout is also just the grind wearing you out. We talk about having to love the grind. Keep on grinding, keep on grinning, keep on grinning, keep on grinding. It's all the same idea, right? Except even when you're grinning, it can wear you out. And part of that has to do with I think experimentation is the way to go with this. It's about having the freedom to discover who you are as a player. When you're in a really structured environment, you don't have so much freedom as a player. You don't have a chance to experiment with different positions, with different techniques. If you've always got to use the exact form the coach is teaching, then your unique physical attributes may never be maximized. Because just because that coach throws completely overhand really well doesn't mean that you wouldn't be better off throwing sidearm. Just because that coach keeps their toes pointed close to the rim when they shoot doesn't mean that you, at a slightly more 45 angle, won't shoot better that way. Because of the way your physique and your release point and your technique work together. We tend to think there's always one answer to everything. And what the play for fun mentality allows for is the opportunity to go out and kind of do you. And sometimes when you do better. So it allows you to just kind of be, right? And that's going to build good memories. That's going to build the sense of belonging. It's going to help you feel like what you did was wonderful. And when you look back on it and you talk to your kids about it, you're a lot less likely to be feeling like you were a failure as a player. If you never came off the bench and your coach was always mad at you and your team won, maybe you can remember those moments positively, but what happens when your team didn't win? Just because you went for the win at all cost mentality doesn't mean they won. Just like going for the fun first mentality doesn't mean your team lost. So how you build your memories from these things, well, if you were having fun, that in and of itself will be a victory for you when you're looking back on it. So that, I think that's kind of the positive of the play for fun mentality. But I mentioned earlier, hinted at it earlier, there are negatives. And the biggest one for me is the paradox of fairness. And this is such a touchy subject. I'm going to get a quick drink before we start talking about this one. Not alcohol. What I am having here, I will not name brands because I don't have sponsors, but a nice little liquid concoction in a mixer bottle that'll help hydrate me. Always stay hydrated. All right. So the paradox of fairness. Equal playtime is not fair. It's not fair. I know what you're thinking. Well, sure it is. Everyone got the same amount, right? But when you have equal playtime, you're ignoring factors outside of the scope of just pure math, right? So let's dive into baseball because, well, I love talking about baseball and it's baseball season. When you're talking about baseball, there are distinct positions on the field that have specific roles. Fielding isn't just fielding. And let's be honest with you, that's true across the board. I mean, I can't think of a sport where it doesn't really matter what your assignment is. If you're playing basketball, the point guard and the center don't have the same job. The center's not bringing the ball up the court and doesn't have the pressure of having to bring the ball up the court while somebody else is trying to take it away from them. In football, the running back doesn't necessarily have to throw the ball. It is possible. And doesn't necessarily have to catch the ball. It is possible. And the quarterback doesn't necessarily have to catch the ball. But unless you're playing two-way, none of you should have to tackle anybody unless there's a turnover. So your assignments are going to be specific to your task. In soccer, if you're a midi, you've got to cover the whole thing. But if you're a striker, you're not spending a lot of time in the defensive area, and you're certainly not using your hands to stop goals like you would if you were a attendee. In every sport, you're going to have things that are assigned to you. So in baseball, if you're very, very, very short, and let's say a little bit on the heavy side, first base, probably not a position you're going to succeed at because you have to be able to cover a lot of range with a quick reach to get the ball. Unfortunately, it's a place that coaches love to put kids who fit that description when they're trying to find equal play time for them because they can't hurt you there, except they can. They can when they miss the ball if you don't get a perfect throw, right? And just because he's getting that extra inning on the field doesn't mean it's fair to him to be put there. If you're in a situation where you have a kid who's not good at a position and you're setting him up for failure, he's not going to feel good about that, even if it meant he got an extra inning of playtime. Because every time he misses the ball, he's going to feel the weight of it. And you don't have to berate him for him to feel the weight of it. His teammates don't have to hate on him for him to feel the weight of it. When the shortstop throws the ball and it only gets halfway to first base and it just dies, you don't think the shortstop knows his arm isn't strong enough to make the throw from the left side of the infield? And that maybe, just maybe, he'd have been better off at second base? But coach, it's only fair for everybody to get the same number of innings at shortstop and the same number of innings at first base as every other kid. How is that fair? That's miserable for everybody involved. I don't want to watch that. They don't want to play that. Forget winning or losing. They're not even developing that way because you're not putting them in a position to succeed where they can develop and get better. So it's not fair. It's not fair to say every player has to pitch the same number of innings. Not every player can throw strikes. Not every umpire calls the same strike zone. It's not going to match up mathematically every time. If you're sitting there with a spreadsheet, guilty as charged, charting playtime, it is really, really difficult to make it be exactly even. Now, basketball has some advantages there, and some other sports have some advantages there where there's a running clock and you can do substitutions. I love recreational leagues that have mandatory stops that force substitutions during the first half of basketball games. I don't think you should do it the whole game because I think there are some advantages in the second half of the game to letting the coach work the flow of the game. But I love it when in the first half they say, all right, every 3 minutes the clock stops. We sub. Everybody does. Across the board. Let's go. Love that. But now I'm getting sidetracked. See, this is how this goes. I get off on little tangents and we get on the clock too long, and then I got to turn this into 3 episodes. So getting back on task here. The play for fun mentality. So the paradox of equal isn't fair. And fair doesn't mean equal. So little Johnny can't throw strikes, but desperately wants to pitch. Giving him the same number of innings as the guy who's your ace isn't fair to the ace. It isn't fair to Johnny. Because Johnny's going to give up 1,000,000 runs, walk a lot of kids, and his arms can be real darn sore throwing that many more pitches. Well, okay, coach, well, instead of doing it by innings, let's do it by pitch count. Okay. That's fairer. But what about the failure part of that? What about the part where Johnny now hates baseball because he just walked 6 batters to reach his pitch count and he got no outs and he's super, super embarrassed? What about that? No, the better thing to do is have Johnny pitch at practice and then give him his shot in a game. Let him go out there and pitch. Let him pitch in a game. Monitor him. And when it is clear that he's not going to succeed, take him out. If he surprises you, ride with it. Don't say, well, I was only going to give him 1 inning, so I didn't think he'd throw a single strike, and I got these other dudes. And the fair thing to do is to put them... Why? Why is that the fair thing to do? You got other games. Let Johnny go another inning. Well, but that wouldn't be equal. That's okay. Again, equal isn't what we're going for here. You're going for fun. You're going for fun, right? Let him have his fun. All right. So getting beyond that paradox, and again, I could spend probably 3 episodes on that paradox because there's so many more nuances to it than just what I just went through. But the biggest thing I can tell you is equal play time isn't fair. Fair doesn't mean you have to be equal. You have to understand your team, your skills, your scenario, your goals and objectives. That is how you find fairness. Now, if you're playing just for fun and you're trying to keep the playtime as equal as possible and you're trying to keep practices lighthearted, well, that can be fun, but can also be very limiting when it comes to skill development, especially for the more advanced players. If you've got guys who, let's go to hockey for a minute. If you've got guys who can barely skate from blue line to blue line, those are lines in the middle-ish of the ice, right? So they're never getting in the offensive zone. They're never getting in the defensive zone. They're just kind of stiff-legged, waddling blue line to blue line. You got those dudes who just cannot get out of the neutral zone. If you're gearing your entire practice to those guys, then you're not working on skills that the advanced players need to work on. So you're limiting the growth of those players. Now, I understand when you're trying to 3-man weave and Johnny can't get himself past the blue lines, his weave becomes a 2-man weave. But there are ways to manage that don't limit the guys who can do it. And as a coach, if you're just playing for fun and you're ignoring that difference, you're going to hurt your advanced players. And honestly, it's going to hurt the less skilled players as well. And for all the players, this mentality can make them unprepared for high pressure situations. If you're the best player on your team and you're never pushed and you just skate circles around everybody at practice because you're that much better than them and there's no challenge, it's never ramped up to put pressure on you. When it does finally get ramped up, when you get older, you start playing on your high school team, when it's really competitive, you're less prepared to handle that pressure. And you probably have had trouble finding the fun in being trained. The grinning and grinding concept has never really been introduced to you because the grind was never introduced to you. So you don't really know how to get yourself better. And if you were motivated by your own personal development, your own personal improvement, and you're monitoring that as a player, if you're self-aware as a player, you may become unmotivated. You're not even going to want to go to practice anymore because you're like, oh, God, I have to go to practice again tonight. The coach is just going to hit infield for 20 minutes and he's going to have us throw for like 10 minutes. I'm not even going to get loose. I'm still going to be stiff. And then he's going to want to do a T scrimmage. Woo, I'm going to hit the ball over base heads again. Great. Yeah, you don't want to go. You start having diminished competitive drive. You can become complacent. So now you're not mentally tough. Your skills aren't getting sharpened, and you don't even want to go. And if you do go and you get older, you're not prepared for the competitive environment of what comes next. So just playing for fun does have its downsides, particularly if there's a next level a player's trying to get to. And look, I get it. We have to talk about parents here too, because a parent's expectations can completely destroy this whole system. It can. So if you're holding tryouts for a recreational plus team, like a rec select, a bronze league, a single A development rec fun, but still tryouts select program so that you can handpick your kids. You're not tied to just whoever signs up. A lot of those leagues out there in the world in every sport. Well, you're going to have parents who think that because there was tryouts, this is going to be a cutthroat team. And there's going to be parents who have never experienced that kind of environment who are going to think that it's just going to be fun. It's going to be recess just like everything else they've ever done is. And if you're not clear about what your team is, and then, stay with that, or if you change that, communicate that, and give parents an opportunity to remove their child from the situation, parents can be your worst nightmare, and they can destroy the fun for everyone. So, knowing all those bad things, why would you do it? Well, because all those positive things are there. And I think one of the things that gets lost when you start talking about playing competitive sports versus playing for fun is the coach's role in it. And I think we always tend to think the worst of the coaches. You often hear people who are proponents of play for fun saying that people who are playing to win are just feeding a coach's ego. Oh, he only wants to win because he wants everyone to know he's the best coach, or he wants everyone to know his son's awesome. He wants the stupid plastic ring. But saying that and saying it's only about fun ignores the value of winning. Winning isn't just about getting a trophy. It's not. In fact, that has very little to do with it. Getting a trophy is just a fun result. Winning teaches valuable lessons. It teaches you about goal setting. It teaches you about discipline. It teaches you about perseverance. If you don't ever prioritize winning, you're missing out on those life lessons, and you're leaving your players unprepared for situations where results matter. And that's not just in sports. That's in academics. You get report cards. That's in professional settings. You have job reviews. You want to get raises and promotions, and you have a resume. Results do matter. And it's not just because your coach or your boss or your teacher wants a plastic trophy or ring. It's because results matter. So the part of the downside of this play for fun mentality is the idea that it villainizes coaches and players who want to be successful and victorious. And it ignores that everybody has different goals. When you have the play for fun mentality, you're like, well, equal play time is fair. Okay, but what happens when players aren't equal? And I don't mean skill necessarily. I mean, that's obviously part of it. But I also mean physical maturity. Oh, but coach, it doesn't matter. Big guy, little guy, they should all play the same. All right. But what if one of them doesn't want to play as much? Well, they wouldn't have signed up. Sure, they would have. They absolutely would have. So I was working with a girls team this year. I wasn't planning to tell this story, but we're going to tell this story. And their coach didn't make it to practice one day. Had a family emergency. He calls me up. He's like, Coach Eric, can you be there for me? I was like, absolutely. I'll head on down there. And so I was a few minutes late, but I came rolling in. I got my ball bag over my shoulder. And again, this is, it's girls basketball, and it's recreational level basketball. So these girls aren't learning to play cutthroat sports, but they do want to feed into higher levels. So we run some drills, we do some layup lines, we get loose, and the other team sharing the court with us wants to scrimmage. I was like, okay, cool. Let's scrimmage. So we put 5 girls out. I've got 3 subs. Only 8 girls would come to practice that day. Actually, 9 had come, but 1 had to leave early. So I've got 3 girls on the side, and I subbed them in, and then I subbed them back out, and we're going through this little 15-minute scrimmage. And I go talk to one of the girls. I'm like, well, hey, you stand back up so I can put you in. And she goes, I don't want to go back in. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to go back in? She's like, well, you made me play the top. Now, what she means is in the 2-3 zone, she was playing one of the top 2 defensive positions. I said, well, it's just one of the 5 positions. What's wrong with playing the top? She goes, I don't like it. I was like, why don't you like it? Well, I don't want to have to bring the ball up. So I was like, all right, well, that's fair, but don't you want the ball? I mean, you're here to play basketball. Everybody wants the ball. She goes, I don't want the ball. And I just kind of paused and I looked at her. I was like, oh, but you're playing basketball. That's the idea, right? We'll get you the ball. She's like, no, my mom made me play. She said I need exercise. Oh, okay. All right. I'm dealing with 11-year-olds here. And mama says you have to play a sport. So you're playing basketball. And your friends play basketball, so you're okay with that. And you like basketball, and you like being on the bench with your team, and you're always a good teammate, high-fiving. But if going on the court means you have to touch the ball today because we don't have as many girls as usual and a couple of the girls who touch the ball a lot aren't here, you'd rather sit with me on the sidelines. And that's a difficult thing in the play for fun mentality, because then do I make her play because playing is fun and I think that's what will be fun for her? Do I let her sit out? And now mom and dad are mad at me because their kid didn't get to play as much as they otherwise should have. Fortunately, it's not a game, so I don't have to deal with quite as obvious a situation. And mom and dad aren't watching. They're sitting out in the car on their phones. But what's fair in that situation? What's equal in that situation? So it creates a tough environment, not only for the skilled players who want to be on the court at all times. I mean, there was 2 girls on that team, and I'd call them out, tell them to get water, and they'd be like, I don't want water, put me back in. Get water, hydrate. Gotta hydrate. Hydrate. Coach Eric always wants you to hydrate. Nope, they're right there at my side. Right there on my hip. I'm not putting you in until you get water. All right, they get their water, drink it quick, right there on my hip. They want back in. They want back in right now. As a coach, I got a girl on the court who I know doesn't want to be there. Is it fair to her to make her be out there? Is it fair to the girl who's dying to get back on the court that I don't let her get out there? So it creates these challenges that as a coach, you've got to balance. And it's tough because their goals are different. And it goes beyond just that. At practice, the girls who are desperate to get on the court also want harder drills. They want to be pushed. They want to learn how to dribble through their legs and behind their backs and how to make good reads and fake passes and pumps and all those things. The player is just there for fun, is happy playing knockout. And so those kids who thrive on the challenges and on the improving and on achieving success through hard work, they're being let down if we don't give them some reward for that. And I don't necessarily even mean winning, although that is a reward. I don't necessarily mean playtime, although that is also a reward. But just player growth is a reward that they're looking for, and they're not going to get it if you're not also catering to their needs. And so if their efforts to excel are not prioritized, now those players are feeling undervalued. Now those players are feeling held back by the system. And regardless of their work ethic, regardless of their ability, if you're treating everybody as equal, the player who is actually working really hard and is superior in talent is going to feel like the amount of minutes you're giving them, the amount of focus you're giving them is actually less than that of the weaker player who doesn't really want to be there because you're geared towards that player. So you have to understand that both sides are going to feel let down in that environment. And then that can affect the fun of the whole team. It can manifest negatives in a lot of different ways. Those competitive players start to lose interest in practice. They start losing interest in games. Things that don't challenge them or reward their hard work lower their morale. And then when they watch teammates who don't work hard, who don't take the game seriously, who don't embrace the opportunities to get better, it can lead to hard feelings. It can lead to feelings of unfairness. It can lead to resentment. And when you start getting that, when you start having competitive players feeling stifled, not only are they going to look for other teams that better align with their goals, good idea, by the way, not because I think that you should always leave your team, because you shouldn't. That leads to talent drain. But because you should always know what's out there. You should always know what's out there. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit more in a moment, because What happens from the team perspective, if the team that's playing for fun has stifled those competitive players and they start looking for other teams and other programs that align with their goals, now you're going to get talent drain because those feelings are valid even if they're negative. And that's one of the things that's crushing community sports. And I've got to do a community sports episode because I think this is really important to understand. If you're a super competitive player and you are on a play for fun mentality team with your friends and you want to go out and be competitive and you're really getting disenfranchised by what you're seeing, but you love playing with your friends, and the options are to go play travel ball and never with your friends and have that kind of level of grind, understand there are other options out there. It feels like the only other option is the win at all cost coach. It feels like the only other option is the AAU coach. It feels like the only other option is travel. It's not the only other option. I don't know your specific market, but I can tell you in my market, if what you need is to grind, there are places where you can go to grind. In basketball, I know of a coach who runs a program on Friday nights for middle school and elementary school kids, but they usually don't play their games those nights, where he grinds them. So if they're going to play with their friends during the week and on weekends, one night a week or 2 nights a week, if you want to sign up for it, you can get your butt kicked. You can be in the ultra competitive environment where you're learning to master those skills. And then you go back to your team and you play for fun. It's out there. You don't have to join the travel team to get that. And it's out there for all sports. You just have to find it. Okay. So as a coach, if you're doing the play for fun mentality, don't you think you should know that also, by the way, so that you can tell little Johnny, hey, I know you're really upset because that player over there isn't as good as you are. And you really want me to push you harder at practice. And I would love to, but I've got to keep it fun for everybody. We're going to play more games. But I know this coach who runs this program. You don't have to leave our team to get the grind you want. Come here, have fun with our guys, be a good teammate, help make them better. And a couple times a week, you go over here and hang out with this other coach and you run his program and you get the kind of forceful things you want. You shouldn't have to necessarily go outside of your own program for that. I would love it if more programs included those options within their programs. They had skill development nights. So you're playing in your rec program and every Monday night is skill day and all the teams come out and they've got some really good coaches that grind you. So all the kids who want that have the shot to get that and everybody else can just come to their team practices. But not enough places do that. So what happens, though, if you're a coach and you don't address these negative feelings, you don't have options for the guys, you're just focused on keeping it fun for everybody, well, that negativity can spread through the whole team. And even the players who are really, really, really enjoying the play for fun mentality, they also stop having fun. And now you have a toxic environment. But I was coaching to play for fun. You were, coach. And unfortunately for you, it's not fun anymore. Well, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I ran one segment of my episode into an entire episode. Yay, Coach Eric, you talk too much. Sorry about that, guys. I guess we're going to have to do this as a multi-episode topic, and that's all right. Yeah, these things, they happen. So this is part 1. We'll call this a duality of winning here. Yeah. The play for fun mentality. We'll talk about the pros and cons of win at all cost in the next episode. And then we'll kind of tie this whole thing up in a bow and kind of figure out where you can go as a player to figure out what it is you need. Because let's face it, the first thing you're going to have to do is identify your own personal goals. And then you're going to have to identify what helps you reach those goals. If your goal is to have fun and your only goal is to have fun, but you're not going to have fun losing, and you're not going to have fun not doing drills, and you're not going to have fun not running and grinding and lifting, but your definition of fun and somebody else's definition of fun, they might be different. And that's okay too. I'm Coach Eric, and this has been Unlocked Mental Performance. Steps up to the plate, feeling the weight, the
crowd's cheering loud, but it's up to fate. Struck out too many times, doubts creeping in, but he knows in his heart it's time to begin. He remembers the lessons, the words that they say. Keep your head up high, don't let fear lead the way. Act, take a swing, let the battle talk. Chest high, walk the walk. Breathe in deep, let the pressure unlock. You are focused, ready to rock. Commit to the moment, let the past fade away. Get back in the game, you're ready to play. Sun shining bright, he's feeling the heat. With every deep breath, he's back on his feet. Visualizing success, he's got a new plan. With the tools from Play Big, he's a brand new man. He knows it's a journey, not just a quick fix. With patience and practice, he'll find his own mix. Act, take a swing, let the back of the talk. Chest high, walk the walk. Breathe in deep, let the pressure unlock. You are focused, ready to rock. Commit to the moment, let the past fade away. Get back in the game, ready to play. Every setback's a lesson, every strike's a chance to rise up stronger, to take a new stance. With the crowd on his side, he's ready to show. With the ABCs in his heart, he's ready to go. Take a swing, let the back do the talk. Chest high, walk the walk. Breathe in deep, let the pressure unlock. You are focused, ready to rock. Commit to the moment, let the past fade away. Get back in the game, you're ready to play. So here's to the slumps, the struggles we face. With courage and commitment, we'll find our own place. Every new inning is a chance to rise. Chase the champion spirit to the skies. Every new inning is a chance to rise.